This is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. As our politics on the national, state, and local levels continues to grow more polarized and divided, there are concerns about maintaining the foundations of a civil society and our American democracy. One group interested in those issues is the Vanderbilt Project on Unity and Democracy. Nashville attorney Gray Sasser is the executive director of that organization. He's also our guest on Inside Politics this week. Gray, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Pat. It's great to be with you. I hope I can be with you live in studio one of these days soon.
But love that too. Where and how did the idea for this project originate?
Sure, Pat. You know, in the aftermath of last year's election, we started to see, and we kind of saw it, we've seen it over the last 4 to 8 years as well, a shift away from a common understanding of the facts that undergird all the political discussions that are going on. And as allegations started to arise, and false allegations about the handling of the last election and questioning of those results, folks at Vanderbilt, Chancellor Diermeyer, John Meacham, who's a professor here, John Geer, who's the Dean of Arts and Science, realized there's an important role for Vanderbilt to play, and we wanted to be part of this discussion, a discussion that restores the kind of almost sanctity of facts and evidence to our political debate, and that we can disagree and disagree vociferously, but we all have to have a shared set of facts, a common narrative. By putting that back in place, we think we can restore some of that foundational framework of the American democracy.
Your organization's full name, the Vanderbilt Project on Unity and Democracy, is a bit of a mouthful. I think you're going to use Vanderbilt Unity Project for sort of a shorthand name, but putting unity and democracy in the same name, same sentence, is a little bit of a stretch, right? I mean, democracies and unities are not always synonymous.
But you're exactly right. And I think it's important to stress one of the things we're not advocating is a unanimity of opinion. I think Eric Severide, a longtime CBS television news guy, once said that America is a turbulent society but a stable republic. Meaning we will have and continue to have really hard-fought debates about, well, hypothetically, what should the marginal tax rate should be? What should, how much infrastructure spending we should have? But each one of these questions should not be an existential crisis for the United States of America. We can be unified on that ideal of America, that commitment to the constitutional system, and then still fight like the Dickens for political points. For example, the three co-chairs of our project are Governor Bill Haslam, John Meacham, who's a historian, and Summer Ali, who's a professor here at Vanderbilt. I'm not sure if the three of them agree on just about anything when it comes to political issues, but they do agree that how those issues will be discussed, and they do agree that they'll be resolved through our constitutional framework.
Winston Churchill once said that democracy is the worst form of government except for all the rest. Is that something that we've forgotten in this country?
I think sometimes we take it for granted. I think the system that the founders put in place was a very elegant framework, and we've seen that framework be improved. We've seen that framework expand the definition of what it is to be an American, and we can celebrate the founders without deifying them. But that framework now looks a little rickety. I think you could say that some of the boards that are holding it together might be a little bit rotten, if not aged. Some of the screws are coming loose, and I think there's some people who might want to take a crowbar to the whole thing.
Why is Vanderbilt the place to begin this kind of effort? I mean, to some in the community, Vanderbilt's had a reputation as being a very expensive and even elitist school. As your group reaches out not only to students but to the broader community, seeking to create unity and a consensus of goodwill, how do you overcome that perception of elitism?
Well, that's something that's important to overcome, number one, and we're aware of that. And I think if you go back to Washington's farewell address, he was talking about the need for institutions of higher learning to play a role in civil society. We've gotten away from that a little bit, Pat, and I think some institutions have become a little bit too insular. If you think about Vanderbilt's history, the Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt, the namesake of the athletic teams, When he gave $1 million grant back in the 1860s, soon after the Civil War, it was to help to establish an institution somewhere in that border region to reestablish national unity. And we think Vanderbilt's a great place to continue that legacy.
Now, town and gown relations have often been rocky over the years across the country. These days, there are concerns about moves on campus to cancel ideas and even people over issues that people on campus don't disagree with on. How does your group deal with that as a university-based group? How are you not going to be seen as a group trying to cancel people or cancel ideas?
Yeah, we're open to, just about any idea that can be based on facts and evidence and supported. We've been trying to be very careful in our programming to present diverse voices. And what I mean, and when I'm talking about diversity, I'm talking about diversity of political opinion. Having folks like Congressman Phil Rowe on recently, a former congressman from the 1st District, some folks from the Trump administration, some Democratic congressmen. We continue to be very intentional about that. And we hope to challenge some people's popular opinion. All opinions that we're going to show are not going to be popular all the time, but we think all of the discussions can be held in a respectful manner and model what respectful political discourse should be like.
How do you overcome the anger and the frustration that's out there in the electorate and from the general public? They don't feel government works anymore. So how are you even going to get their attention to get involved in a program like this?
That's a great question, Pat, and we're working with that. We're struggling a little bit with that because, as you mentioned, we're housed in an academic institution. Personally, I like to read long essays on topics. That's not the way you're going to reach a lot of people. I think some of the folks I work with joke that maybe I spend too much time with my nose buried in a book. So we have to. We're viewing this like an academic startup. We're going to try a bunch of different experiments and see what works. Everything from online seminars to hosting events on campus. We've talked about musical events. We've had a great conversation this week with some poets. How can we communicate this message effectively? It's going to be a different message for different groups, and there is no right solution there's no one single solution to this problem. If it was as simple as putting together a seminar or coming onto your show for one time, we'd be done and we could go on and do something else.
Nashville attorney Gray Sasser is our guest. He's the executive director of the Vanderbilt Project on Unity and Democracy. Back to continue our conversation with Gray and about this program after this break.